Swordburst 2 is based off the anime Sword Art Online, and originally came from the idea of being in a simulation. SB2 likes to follow this trend as, in the title screen, you go into a desktop PC, and originated from the first SAO game, which Alex made years prior. With this, many developers came into play, and we'll get to that later on down this list, but all of them came together and made Swordburst 2, and that's how the game was made. Trading is a big essential part of the game, as it is the reason why there's valueless prices or a way to even trade for items. Items themselves are another entire thing, as literally they are the probably most important part of this entire game. Without items, it would not be a game. Skills are very important too, as they're just boosts that help you out and pretty much get you from place to place, or possibly just help you defeat enemies. Or they're just cosmetics. They've never given boosts whatsoever, but they always make your character look cool, and possibly just to show to other people, or possibly trade. Chests give bell or possibly crystals of any kind, also have a very high chance of tributes depending on the floor you're in. Players are literally just the players yourself. I don't know, put it here, but you get the point, it's just you. Mobs are also a central part of SB2. Without mobs, it would not be SB2 nor a game. They are also literally like the items, a big part of the game. Without them, this game literally wouldn't function. Floors are also a big essential part of the game, but wouldn't be as needed, as you could just still play the game without other floors, but you get the idea. Speed glitch is a very big glitch and pretty much is a feature at this point in this game. To perform speed glitch, there's many ways you can do it. Depending on the device you're on, it can vary on how you can do it, gets you from one place to another, and there was also times where this was patched out with an anti-cheat, which would pretty much rubber band you. The Rusty Rapier meme is pretty much just a meme about Rusty Rapier being worth a lot, since it's literally like the worst item in the entire game.
Swordburst 2 started to collab with different Roblox events for a certain time period. The two most notable events in SB2 were the Save Arcadia event and the Catacombs event. For the Save the Arcadia event, basically Arcadia is in ruins, and you must protect Arcadia from these goblin mobs, and you must defeat the Orc, which is the boss for this event, in order to win. There was an extended part of Arcadia which you would find the Orc, and once you killed the Orc, a message would pop up saying you completed the event. Another popular event for SB2, which was the Catacombs event, was located in Woodlands. There would be a red portal which would take you to the Catacombs. The Catacombs had a certain amount of waves after you defeat each mob in the waves. The final boss, which was based off the 4-5 boss, was pretty easy to defeat, and if you defeat it, you would get the Infinity Slash skill and the Electric Bolt. After that, SB2 mainly started to focus on expanding the game. Years later, Epic Fishbowl and Yaddle decided to do a winter event, also known as Snowflake George. This event was for fun, but the event got rushed. However, many people liked it, and a new skill was introduced, which was known as Summon Tree. This was a huge game changer, since Summon Tree made stamina regen way better. It also introduced a new mob known as Crystallites and Gemmulites, which also have a chance of dropping legendary or rare crystal. This would also mark the first contributor's weapon to be introduced to the game, which was owned by Epic Fishbowl. The name of the weapon was called Aqua Leader. Now if we move on to April, the Easter event was another event which was made and introduced by Wise and Matt and a few other contributors. Max, who was the last SB2 dev, liked the idea of doing another event. The Easter event would be called Egg Realm, and it was located at 4-4 near spawn. It would teleport you to a small map, which had Crystallites and Gemmulites. The boss was the Egg Mimic, who dropped a 1H longsword called Prism, and other items as well. The heal skill would also be introduced. It would later be required to be level 15 to unlock it. Years later, the 411 dungeon came out and everyone was pretty hyped for it. However, there was a problem. There was an issue with 412. We're not exactly sure what happened. It could possibly be because the map was laggy or something else. So 412 got temporarily cancelled. Yato and Max needed something to replace it. Now this would mark the first day of me becoming a contributor, when me, Atomic, and BGM proposed the Halloween event. The name of the event was based off the novel Sleepy Hollow. I also liked the idea, and we invited as many contributors as we can. Everything went well until almost everyone in the team was either busy with school or preparing for college. This would cause a lot of problems in the Halloween event, especially with mob reskins, and one of the proposed skills by Tin and me, which got cancelled, because we did not have enough time. The skill was called Summon Undead. Basically, you could summon skeletons to protect yourself and attack other mobs. However, the next event, which was another winter event, was in 4-3. It was proposed by Emerald, and it allowed opportunity for some new members in the community to work on it. However, this event was really bad, and Emerald got fired due to drama and other reasons.
Early access began on February 18, 2017, and pretty much revolved around the idea of pretty much testing the game before it came out. In early access, you can get rewards such as ores or ruby dagger, which was an exclusive weapon to the early access. Also, this weapon for some reason can be upgraded to a high damage number whenever the original damage is very low. A lot of things were missing, such as the advanced shop not being in here. Many boss models were way different from the ones you see in the current game, as being the boss, the dire wolf, and even the frenzy boards. The SB2 wiki is the main place to get any information about the game. It literally has everything about what you need to know, or possibly even about exclusive stuff that's not even known. The wiki was used for prices way back in the day before bell cap was introduced, which we're going to get into that way later down this list, but the wiki is pretty much just the main hub and contains pretty much everything about the game and any information you need to know. TNG's price list was a big thing, and before the full 11 update, this was one of the biggest price lists that were used. It was made by one of my best friends, Atomic Striker. You probably heard of him. He is now a contributor for the game, but basically this price list was one of the best. It was beside like the wiki's price list, and back in the day, the wiki was not the best to use because people, could do some things to the site, and we're gonna get into that later on in the list. But TNG's price list was a big thing before the bell cap was introduced, and it ruined it. Major updates after floor 10 were really a downfall start of SB2, which was the floor 11 update, the floor 12 update, and the 12.5 update, which a lot of people refer to it as since it's like a half floor. These are really where the game kind of went downhill, originally with the original floor 11 update, and eventually the contributor team was created and they made the update for that. Then the floor 12 update happened. Of course, that's excluding the events that happened between those, but with that, with the original floor 11 update was the UA ores. UA ores were a big thing in the economy back in the day. They were overpriced, and the reason why they existed, which we're going to get into that way down the list, we're going to get into that topic eventually, but they were going for a lot. There were not many of these, but eventually they got duped, and there was a ton. With the floor 11 update, they were changed to the no item, and eventually there was the bamboozle chest, which had all these ores, and they costed quite a bit. Dark Swarm and Shiny UA ores were also part of this, but they were never introduced in the bamboozle, and they've been forgotten since then. These ores have never been seen since that day, and you probably will never see them again. The content creators of SB2 was a big part, and going off up to the most major ones, Twisted Bandora is probably one of the most popular ones that existed in this entire thing, and a lot of inspiration comes from him from other content creators. Then we had me, 05, Alpha, we had Obscured Ghost, you had Lofa Doge, you had FaZe, you had L4 Pacific, and some other people too. These people had, of course, a big role in the game. They made a bunch of videos giving information how to do things and how to play the game. With this, with the content creators, of course, are the roles of the game. These are the developers. The only current developer that still works in this game is Max. Besides that, we had Alex, which we're going to get into later on in this list. There was Kevin O, there was 7, but eventually with the floor 11 update, introduced the contributors. These were the people who really made content for the game. After that point, since the only current developer that could actually update the game was Max, but these people had a separate place where they can make things and eventually get published in the game. Going roles in order, there were the developers. Of course, some of these developers don't have access to studios, but they still have the ranks, and these are known as Yato and Phoenix, which are the engineer and lead contributor. There's me and Atomic, which are the senior contributors. Then there's the contributors, which there's a bunch of them. I won't be able to name them all here, but I'll just I'll let you guys figure that out. There are also the helpers, which basically did tiny things. They didn't contribute as much as the contributors. And there were the testers, which test things for the game, which that's self-explanatory. Also with these roles were the custom items given to them for contributing to the game. These would vary in damage depending on the amount of work they the item crystal. This was something that used to originate in floor 1 and floor 3, and they would drop certain items, and at some point these items were very rare, but now they aren't really as rare anymore since they were duped, but these were known as Crafter's Outfit and Well Leather Cloak. This one's more obscured, but there was an SB2 toy set you might not have known about. Basically, it had the Direwolf, which was the older model of it. There was also 2 players, and there was a rare or legendary crystal. I'm not sure, because the color is kind of like blue and purple. But this toy set also included a accessory you could wear on your back, and it was called the Socialist. The Builder Kit was a command that certain people can only use, and this command would let you spawn in an entire kit with stuff you can basically teleport around the map. And pretty much what the name said, the Builder Kit. You can pretty much TP the stuff and build with it. This has resulted in certain incidents where people use the AFK farm. The Vel cap has went through a lot of history, originally not even having a cap, which the only reason this cap was even added was due to duping, as if you duped Vel, you could pretty much have like an infinite amount of it. Eventually with floor 11, the cap was put to 10 million Then later on, down the line, like years down the line, it was increased to 100 mil, and now more recently it's been increased to 250 mil. The original floor. These existed prior to the 2020 updates before the Floor 11 update. These would be from Floor 1 through Floor 8, except Helmfort, the festive gifts. These were gifts you can buy during the 2017 Christmas event. These could be bought in the lobby, and you could buy the festive cape, which was from the big gift, which was for 1k Robux, while the festive scarf, which was from the small gift, was 1,500 Robux. These old screenshots were back before Swordburst 2 released, and these were found on Alex's Twitter and some other places too. As you can see in these pictures, you can see older versions of such things, and so forth. Scrapped or placeholder crystal. This crystal would be found in a really old screenshot of Swordburst 2, and also, during a time in SB2 when the forge was broken, this would have popped up in chat when you received an item. These are old screenshots from way back in the day when Fish was the only contributor for the game. It shows floor 14 and floor 15 and how they would look. Scrapped floor 10 or floor 11 armor. This is the armor that was leaked prior to the floor 11 update, but eventually was found out to be made by a fan. Old floor 11 dungeon layout. Prior to the Floor 11 dungeon release, there were old screenshots of what it looked like during development, which come from me, but these old screenshots showed how the dungeon would originally looked. I'll put some footage on the screen now of what it would have been like. Swordburst 2's downfall after Floor 9. There's a bunch of ways you could say how Swordburst 2 had a downfall. It could be exploiters, it could be the flagging system, it could be because of the updates. All of these contribute to the fact that it had a downfall after Floor 9, and it will never be the same as it was in the past. 7. Using Odor Slayer on past developers. During this time, 7 demoted Lolita and Cake Master Sour due to their past actions. He used the Odor Slayer on these two developers before they were demoted, which stands for Online Data Slayers. But basically, this sword can pretty much insta-kill anyone, and he used it on them right before they were demoted. Data wipe issues. Swordburst 2 is well known for data wipe issues way back in the day, and this used to be a major issue prior to Floor 10 release. There's been many instances where there's been data loss issues, and there was also an instance back in Floor 10, like I just said, where basically Max couldn't patch it, so Alex had to step in and he was able to fix it, and he had to pretty much redo the entire data store system. But yeah, it's been a major issue over the years. During the revamps for all the floors that 7 was making prior to the Floor 11 update, when he revamped Arcadia, he broke the spawn so you couldn't teleport out. So there was this entire thing where everyone was just stuck there, and I remember everyone was freaking out, dude. It was funny. But I remember eventually on the Discord, they did an announcement saying that you could just type Arcadia in the menu. Sound rebalancings have happened over the years. Originally, we're in the Easter event from 2021. His rebalancings were introduced, and pretty much he rebalanced everything in the entire game. There was nerfs, there was boosts, and pretty much he just had like a major impact on the game. Copyright models. There's been a bunch of copyright remodels. More recently, the World Slayer was going to be an OG weapon, but was taken out due to copyright. There was also the original Floor 11 armors. There was just a lot of other stuff too that I can't remember off the top of my head, but a lot of it's been taken down due to copyright. Cyclone Blade was removed during Floor 2 revamp. 7 released it. He pretty much didn't put back the ruined ordnance back in the game. Everyone couldn't pretty much get it back for like a good while, and eventually there was an ancient chest and it was had a very low drop chance. And for some reason it had it. I'm not sure why. It was put in there apparently just for people to get. Eventually Floor 2 was redone again by the contributors, and it was put back in. Leaf Blade was a scrapped item at one point, and originally it was going to be in the Floor 4 update, but never was added. Way down the line in the 2021 Easter event, it was put in as a drop, and eventually it was just added to Floor 4 beyond that point. Pre-ore was a broken ore at one point, but eventually got fixed later on, and now has been revamped. Floor 11 Reaper was possibly originally a Floor 10 mini-boss, or possibly just a mob, due to old images where it used to be a lot bigger, and also the shopkeeper in Floor 10 is literally just the Reaper model. TNG versus Sword Masons was a big thing that was going on way back in the day. It was this big drama between guilds. This was back when guilds were actually like a thing, because nowadays there's just not really any guilds anymore. So TNG and Sword Masons were the two biggest guilds. Sword Masons having, I think, over like a couple K people, and TNG had its price list, which was very popular for. And these two guilds did not like each other. They had very big conflict, which is why they evolved around not liking each other. Dynasty Guild was a random guild that came into play one day and was apparently going to strike other guilds and take them down, including mine back in the day when it was still a thing, including TNG and Sword Masons and all that. But it never happened because people figured it out and they reported it. But still, it was a pretty big deal, because if this did happen, they would have raided Discord servers and got them like taken down. But it never happened, and yeah, the Discord servers are fine or just been abandoned by now, since this was years ago. In 2022, a dupe was discovered in a certain system that allowed players to manipulate the game's mechanics to create duplicate items. This exploit involved a series of actions that tricked the system into generating two identical items, one for each participant involved in the process. The glitch could be triggered through various means, such as leaving the game session. By exiting the game sessions under certain conditions, the system might fail to properly update the state, resulting in item duplication. Exploiting vulnerabilities. This involves taking advantages of loopholes or weaknesses in the game's programming to achieve the same outcome. Such activities often go against the intended gameplay and can disrupt the game's economy. Conflict around SB2 staff. This can consist of anything, contributors making mistakes or just making dumb decisions overall, and this creates conflict around them, or possibly any other reasons. Developers quitting SB2. Pretty much the developer just decided to go their own way, or possibly worked on other games such as Alex working on SB3 and World Zero, or 7 working on Blue Heater. Alex left the game way back during the Floor 3 release. He left the game during this time as he didn't like the direction the game was going, so he went to make World Zero. Floor 8 marriages. Occasionally players will get married in Swordburst, which usually takes place in Floor 8. There's been many instances where this has happened, where people just get married in-game, and of course this breaks the Roblox TOS, but overall this has happened many times and I've went to a couple of them. I think it's more funny than anything, but still it is kind of weird. Exploiters. So this part of the Iceberg about to get into is about to be a bunch of exploits. I got sent this by an exploiter, so if you're wondering how I get this information, that's how. Auto-panic is something that was built into exploits to force kill or kick the player if a mod would join them. This would make it impossible for the mod to pretty much detect if they were, exploiting or not. Mass farming and PayPal selling, this would pretty much revolve around the idea of using a bunch of alts, farming for stuff, and using exploits, and then selling them on PayPal, which can make them plenty of money. This is pretty much one of the major reasons why exploiters do what they do nowadays, because they can just make money off of it. But I will say, I don't get it, because the amount of money they make, it would be near nothing. And also the fact a mod can just come in, ban the account, and it's over. They lose all of that money they just made. I don't know, I don't get it. I think it's very stupid. Sora script allowed people to open limited time Aura chests when they weren't still around. This will let you get Sora if you open the Valentine's chest with this such exploit. And you can make profit off this because Sora was going for a lot way back in the day. All skill script will allow the user to get every skill inventory viewer. This script allowed the user to check anyone's inventory as long as they're in the server with them. This script was the fault of many incidents such as the Floor 11 dungeon leaks and contributor weapons. Webhooks. Webhooks allow users to monitor Swordburst drops such as items and weapons that can even be filtered to only show certain drops such as legendaries. Webhooks are usually integrated into a script to allow the exploiter to monitor drops via Discord bot. Webhooks are very common with exploiters if they have many alts. The Forge disaster happened way back in the 2022 Halloween event, and it was when the Forge was released. Burst crystals were a pain to get. You needed so many legendary crystals, and just the amount of items you needed for the Forge was beyond what it was. Eventually this was nerfed, however, but the damage was already done. SB2 News server was the original source server before the SB2 contributor server. It was led by Toxlo5, and pretty much it did what the SB2 contributor server did as of now, but eventually stuff happened with it and it got deleted. Leaking drama, this can revolve around anything, with contributors leaking stuff to people they shouldn't be leaking, or just stuff being leaked by exploiters. This literally can refer to anything leaking wise. The Must World Incident. Musword was a community manager for Swordburst 2 way back in the day, and eventually he pretty much complained about the fact he was not being paid, even though he agreed to not get paid, and he took the job anyways. Eventually this led to him getting fired. The Leapers are NPC from Floor 1, and were in Arc. Pretty much all they did was help you out and give you info. There's not really much known about them. A scrapped Impossible Phantom Forces X SB2 crossover event, but it's not known exactly if this was going to happen, but there was just artwork made for it. The Anti-System Incident was a previous mod on the mod team, and he just banned random people for no reason, and eventually Max had to step in and ban them. Eventually a second person called White Fang did the same thing years later, and he pretty much did exactly what Anti-System did. Cookie logging was a big issue at one point, since people can pretty much get your data depending on if you click on a link when you're trading with them or not. Max procrastinating updates was a big issue also, since Max would literally go AFK all the time and never answer DMs, and if you did ping this man, bro would go online and then completely ignore you, go offline. This is one of the reasons why SB2 updates have been delayed for so long, is because literally Max... Also, this was an issue back when 7 was working on the Floor 11 update. Apparently Max did not respond to him whatsoever when he was trying to get the update out, and it took him hours before Max actually decided to do something. Cake Master Sour selling items for Robux. Cake Master Sour was the ex-developer for Swordburst 2, and pretty much what he did is he would spawn items in, and he had this group of people he'd work with, and he'd give them the items. Then they would go around in SB2 and cross-trade with random people. This also resulted in him spawning the unreleased auras, which are known as EUAs, and this is why they exist, because of him. And pretty much what they would do, they would go sell the items to these random people, then they'd gather this Robux, come back to Cake Master Sour, and just split it with them. And since he was a developer, he could spawn as many items as he wanted, but eventually got caught, and it resulted in him getting fired. Now, the one question that everyone's asked, and we really don't know why, what makes us keep coming back to SB2, play or work on it, depending who you are? What is the hook? What is the charm? What kind of spell are we under that makes us come back to this game, no matter if there's a bad update or not? Still, we come back to it sometime later and play it again. Why? What is the thing that makes us do it? Why do we do it?